Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about something that many e-commerce brands are grappling with, and that's outdated platforms holding them back. More specifically, Magento. If you're using it, you've likely felt the frustration. It's slow, clunky, expensive, but there's a better way, and that's what we're here to discuss. So, we're going to be talking today about why Shopify is the future for growing e-commerce brands, and particularly enterprise-level brands where there are quite a lot more needs in terms of resource. So without further ado, I'm going to get started and I'll go through some of the slides that we've got. So just before we get into the details, a quick introduction. We're Imaginaire, a human-first e-commerce agency based in Nottingham, and we work UK-wide and actually globally. We're proud of our boutique team. We've got 7 specialists across several disciplines, including SEO, Shopify design and build, and paid media management too. We were established in 2014, and in that 10 years plus that we've been working, we've helped countless brands break free from restrictive platforms and embrace the future of e-commerce. We provide Shopify and Shopify Plus design and build services, along with performance marketing in the form of search engine optimization and paid search and shopping management. You'll be hearing from myself today. I'm Seb. I'm the managing director of Imaginaire. I've been tinkering with websites since I was about 14 when my dad let me loose on his old knackered Dell computer. I then spent the ages of 14 to 16 playing football during the day and then staying up late at night until about 3 a.m. most days, much to my mum's horror. Since that, I've worked at a large agency where I developed a love for the handful of e-commerce clients that they had. And that's really the reason that I decided to launch Imaginaire after realizing that that wasn't ever going to be their focus area. And that's what I wanted to do for my career. So I launched Imaginaire. And in that time, I've seen the good, the bad, and the downright ugly of e-commerce platforms and the changing landscape of them too, because it's changed tremendously in the last 10 years. We've helped businesses navigate these changes, and we're here to help you do the same. So why move from Magento to Shopify specifically? So if we get straight to the point, and it sounds a little bit cutting, and it probably is the time to do that, but Magento has become outdated. Its infrastructure is very clunky. Maintenance costs we've seen can easily go above £50,000 per year just to keep the website running and secure. That's not even adding new features. And in an era where speed is everything, it just doesn't cut the mustard, really. It was built for a different time. So it was built before mobile commerce and mobile dominance sort of emerged, before there were omni-channel expectations, and before e-commerce brands needed speed and flexibility at scale. One of the main issues from Magento comes from the fact that in 90% of installations, you have the front and the back end on the same server. So that's the front end is your customer-facing website that customers interact with and buy from. The back end is all the administration of it and setting up products, managing orders, etc. The trouble is with Magento is it's known for hogging resources on servers. So the back end of it, if you were running something like a product update or you were doing a security patch, that would also slow down the front end of the site, which just isn't ideal in today's world. Obviously, anytime somebody has to wait around for a website to load, you run the risk of losing them. So why are brands making the switch? Well, Shopify offers a modern headless infrastructure that splits the front and back end of your store. So you don't have that same interaction where if you're doing something in the back office of the website, it's not going to affect how somebody's buying. It's not going to interrupt their checkout experience. It's not going to slow down them loading the product listing page. It means that you can have a lightning fast storefront, better customer experiences, and ultimately higher conversions, which is what we're all here for. You can centralize content, making it easier to push updates across web, mobile apps, and other channels. And crucially, Shopify takes care of the heavy lifting. So your team can focus on growing the business, not firefighting platform issues and having to run security updates. So let's talk about the admin area. That's a massive part of this. If you've ever used Magento's admin panel, you'll know it's painful. Simple tasks are complicated. Data isn't live. You have to click buttons to refresh the data. You have to wait around for it. You're basically just constantly playing catch up. And that's not even starting on how unintuitive it is for performance analysis. In short, it's just not built for the modern world of e-commerce. It's really hard for performance marketing teams to get into and actually get data that they can use. Shopify completely flips that on its head. Managing products and orders is effortless. Data's live, so you get real-time insights that your marketing teams or agencies can act on. And tracking performance is a breeze. You can focus on strategy, not wrestling with a clunky dashboard and trying to find what you're looking for. There are countless pre-made analytics reports allowing you to gain insight into customer segments that are performing well or underperforming, so you can take action on each of them, which traffic channels are driving revenue, and even where customers are searching, what customers are searching for most on your store, allowing you to do things like decide on new stock levels, where you're going to be purchasing from, and new product ranges too. I want to dedicate a whole section of this webinar actually to Pagespeed. It's something that Google have banged on about for ages, but more importantly, it's something that really does drive conversions. So the harsh truth is that slow websites lose sales. Nearly half of your customers expect a page and demand a page to load in under 2 seconds, or they'll leave. If it takes 5+ seconds, your conversion rate plummets. There's so much data out there that shows that. And in fact, Walmart ran a study where they found that for every 1 second improvement in load time of their website, conversions increased by 2%, and that's at scale. That's why speed isn't just a nice to have, it's a revenue driver, so it's imperative. Our Shopify builds are designed to be blisteringly fast. So the way that we build them is that we do, as I've talked about already, we separate the back end and the front end of the website. We use something called headless architecture, which means that we essentially generate a static version of your website that gets updated when you make updates in the back end. What that means for a customer is that they don't have to wait around for your website to call a database connection and then pull content down from that. It means everything's almost instantaneous. Images are also optimized dynamically, depending on the user's device that they're accessing it on. So, for example, if they're accessing the website on a desktop, it'll load the big image. If they're accessing it on a mobile phone, it'll load a smaller image that fits the phone size. So you're not just shrinking a bigger image down to fit a different device. You're getting the speed benefits of just showing a smaller images. The result of that is a store that loads in a flash and it keeps customers engaged, and that's proven by the conversion rate increases that we tend to see when we re-platform customers. Obviously, we specialize in Shopify, so we're a little bit biased. So what I wanted to do is just give a quick head-to-head comparison of the two platforms, just in the interest of balance, and show the positives and negatives of each. So if we get into the details, Magento is self-hosted, which means high maintenance costs and painful updates. However, it does also mean that you control the environment and you can make changes to the back end a lot easier. So that's a positive of that. But in terms of scalability and not having the errors that you sort of probably have had if you've had a Magento installation for any amount of time, Shopify hosts it in the cloud, so it makes it a lot easier. You're not having to interact with that back end. They've got whole teams looking after that to make sure that it works properly. Licensing fees with Magento are also a big part of it. So you pay a licensing fee every year, and you do have an element of that. You pay a platform fee with Shopify, but it's a monthly cost. But with Magento, they are shifting people more towards Adobe Commerce, which is their cloud solution. However, they're focusing much more on enterprise-size clients for that, and therefore a lot of the features don't really make sense unless you're sort of into the hundreds of millions of revenue sort of mark. It also just means that Magento's future is uncertain. They've said that they're dropping support for it completely, so there's going to be a point where your Magento installation just stops working, which isn't great. Shopify, on the other hand, like I say, it's cloud hosted. You don't get any surprise maintenance bills if something goes wrong, because that's something that Shopify have got a team just fixing on the fly. And that's it doesn't happen anyway. They've got proper development architecture to make sure that things aren't pushed to the production environment without them being checked really rigorously. The Shopify environment also evolves continuously. Updates run alongside your live site. You don't even notice that they're happening. They just happen in the background. And more crucially, the infrastructure scales with demand. So a common problem that Magento installations have is that you might have an influencer feature your products, or you might have just a sale like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, where you have an influx of people to the site. And if you've not planned for it properly, that can just use up all the resource of a server, and it's on a physical box. So once that happens, you're then firefighting and trying to shift with load balancing, all those sorts of things, which you might not have set up if you're a smaller business. Shopify, on the other hand, scales automatically. So as soon as you start getting more demand, one, there's less load on the server because of the architecture that we build with. But even if it wasn't us that built your Shopify site and you were just using Shopify native, their resource scales with the demand. So you just don't have that same downtime that you might have experienced with Magento. And you're never caught off guard with that. A massive thing to think about as well is the security of each platform. Like I say, Magento becoming outdated, that's always a concern. There are constant security risks, there are constant sort of vulnerabilities that hackers are trying to find, and also fraudsters. And that's a huge part of modern e-commerce, is preventing fraud. It's your responsibility to do that and to have a platform that sort of enables that, really. Um, like I say, it's non-negotiable. Magento does require manual security patches, so that requires a developer. So there's development time there and cost. It's also time consuming, and it's really risky if you fall behind. So you might have something where somebody kind of updates something and then it breaks. So you're double paying on the developer having to come back into it to fix it. And that, for a lot of customers, puts them off actually running the security patches, which then means that you're just at risk of a hacker getting in and running amok, really, which you just don't want. So Shopify, on the other hand, updates automatically. As I've said, they use what's called an incremental update structure. So that means that they're rolling small updates very regularly rather than doing one big security patch like Magento does. The other nice thing with Shopify is it's a modern platform. It's designed for modern commerce and modern transactions. It's PPI compliant out of the box. With Magento, you need to have an extension to do that. And it's a clunky solution. So that's just something that I think all brands should be looking at, really, is making sure that their customers can be completely safe in the knowledge that their card details are secure, that nobody's going to intercept it, and that everything's just been done properly. And that's becoming more of a sort of regulation thing as well. It's in the EU, definitely, and it's getting much more strict in the UK. So what I wanted to talk about next is just the process of moving. So we understand that moving e-commerce platforms is a really daunting exercise. So we just wanted to be completely transparent about our migration process, because obviously every agency is slightly different. But I just wanted you to have a full understanding of how that works, and you can sort of think about how that maps to your own company. So if you've looked into migrating from Magento, you might have heard some horror stories, particularly around data and data loss. They don't make it particularly easy to get data out of Magento. That's kind of one of their ways of keeping customers. We've heard some horror stories with that, with people just losing products entirely and having to completely rebuild product catalogs, which is obviously completely not ideal if you've got anything more than a few hundred SKUs. So what we did to counter that is we built our own proprietary plug and play software to streamline the process. So we built a back-end Laravel app, which essentially interacts with the Magento API to get all of the data that we need. And we slightly customize that for each customer, so that obviously you might have different data fields and stuff within a product, stuff like that. And that basically acts as a middleman. So it moves customers' orders and content from Magento to Shopify into a Shopify development environment. And what that means is that we can validate the migration in real time. We can make sure that nothing's been lost. Things like simple checks of how many products were on Magento, how many products are now in the Shopify development environment, and also is all the data there that we need. And that's before we've even moved the website over. So it means that there's no stress for you. You can relax in the knowledge that everything's there without having that horrible feeling of, right, well, we've got the website ready now and we want to go live with it, so let's just push it live and let's hope. Like, we don't like that ourselves, and we don't like our customers having that feeling. So that's why we built it. So yeah, that's kind of the data sort of migration part of the process. Once we've got the data in place, we design the site from the ground up. It's a collaborative process, so we use a tool called Figma to do our design. So we essentially create a full working prototype of the website where you can click around different elements. You can see how the user interface will work. And we get you heavily involved in that because we want to make sure that we're getting the brand message that you guys have got into your new website, and we're making sure that that's really nice. But the nice thing with the way that we do build is because we use modern architecture, the sky's the limit, really. You don't have to just stick to the typical e-commerce grid of like 4 products on each row. We can be a bit more creative with it. And like I said before, the nice thing is that we centralize the content. So when it comes to down the line, if you want a mobile app and you want to use the same product data, it's all pulling from Shopify. You're not having data in different places and having to worry about keeping that updated. We design mobile first because that's where the majority of traffic comes from, obviously. And our conversion rate optimization team advises on features that will turn visitors into buyers as well. And that's based on evidence and experiments that we've run, not just kind of guesswork. So that's a nice thing with our sort of design service. Um, the next thing is that we make sure that obviously the website is fast. So as I've talked about a lot, that's a real priority for us and one of our core sort of features of a website built by Imaginaire. So speed isn't just about infrastructure, it's about the execution of it. So our development team builds your store in a controlled environment. We update you with screen share videos along the way as well, so you're seeing how the work's going. But we really drill into how we can make your website performant. So making sure, like I say, images are optimized properly, that we're not trying to pull data from a database, that with everything in a nice, simple, logical order, that filters work properly. All of those sorts of elements that customers just expect, they take quite a bit of work in the background, and we make sure that's done so you get a really nice website out of it. The other thing that we do is we've got our in-house SEO team, and we're very sort of strong in that area, especially for e-commerce SEO. And one of the things that we do with every project is we get our SEO team into it just to go through and make sure that best practices are being adhered to, obviously. But also we identify some quick wins that we can do during the build as well. So a nice thing with Shopify is that you can create automated collections. So you might have something like a piece of furniture, and it might be an industrial piece of furniture, and you might have loads of different products across different brands and ranges that match that. We can pull in an automated collection that gets all of that data into it and then add content to it. So that's definitely something that we look to do within a project, is make sure that we're sort of going a bit above and beyond, really, and saying, have you thought about having this? Because there's actually 10,000 searches behind this keyword per month, and you're already ranking for quite a lot. So why don't we do this collection page too? Little bits like that, which I think really do make a difference, rather than the just normal development sort of house where they kind of just build it to your specification, really. And then for brands that are serious about SEO, we do offer our monthly service as well. Retainers start at £3,000 per month, and that really does push you on and help you capitalise on organic search opportunities from day one. So once the development phase is complete, we don't just hand over the keys and hope for the best. Every site we build goes through a rigorous QA process, just to make sure that it's tested across multiple browsers, multiple devices, some devices that are older than others as well, because obviously there's still a massive portion of people that are on older devices, and we make sure that it looks and performs flawlessly, whether your customers are on desktop, mobile or tablet. We just want to make sure that that experience is unmatched in comparison to your competitors. Once confident that everything's running smoothly, we'll share a demo link with you, and this is your chance to explore the site, test every feature, test some purchases, stuff like that, and make sure it meets your expectations. We encourage you to go through it thoroughly. We can show you around it. We can show you what sort of things to look for as well. Click around, like I say, place test orders, get a real feel for the experience, and make sure that it's what you want, really, and what you think your customers are going to want. Once you're happy, we then just work together to lock in a date to launch the website. And at that point, we will have verified that all the data from your Magento installation's there and that the website is working seamlessly. And then as soon as we're happy with that, we get it launched and you can enjoy the future with a better conversion rate. So I just want to also, within this meeting, just to sort of cover some common concerns that we have, especially from Magento customers that have been on it for potentially years, and maybe have had a different sort of, a few years ago, maybe had a look at Shopify and just found that it wasn't really up to scratch for them. The platform has evolved massively in that time. So just some of the most common concerns that we get, to be honest with you, they're mainly about its customization options. I think a lot of people perceive Shopify as being sort of a pre-built thing for more kind of hobbyist stores, rather than it being for proper businesses. That's definitely not the case nowadays. They've pushed really hard, especially with the Shopify Plus platform, to deliver some mega experiences. They have people like Gymshark on there, Opoly, Huel, Hasbro. The list goes on and on and on. And pretty much every major retailer is moving over to Shopify now because of that reason. But the customization options are perfect, because with the way that we build them, we can obviously have a lot of customization in the back end anyway through Shopify's various apps, and we can build extensions to make sure that things happen that they should do. They also have a lot of that stuff out of the box, but especially on the front end, because we control that whole process. That's where we can do lots of nice things like calculators, all that sort of stuff. Another concern that we get is, can Shopify handle complex B2B features? And finally, can Shopify integrate with X, Y, and Z, different apps, different APIs? So one of the biggest misconceptions that we do here is that Shopify is too restrictive compared to Magento. I think a lot of people think that Magento, because it's self-hosted, can be kind of almost like hacked a little bit in terms of molding it to what you want. But the truth is, with headless commerce, Shopify is actually a lot more flexible than that. If you need advanced customization, we build fully bespoke front end, so we can sort of take the data from Shopify essentially and do what we want with it to then hit different endpoints in Shopify's API to do things like add to cart. So we really do control that whole front end experience. Um, if you're in B2B, Shopify Plus has wholesale pricing, custom order flows, powerful automations. The sky's really the limit with that. And then finally, just on the integrations element. So with that, again, it's all through modern technology. It's a lot of the stuff built with JavaScript. That's the base language of most APIs. So we can integrate with absolutely anything to bring that in. And 99% of the time, there are already pre-built extensions to do that work. So things like DPD, Klarna, like all those sorts of places, Klaviyo, they all have pre-built integrations with Shopify because it's the biggest platform in the world now. So yeah, if your concern is that Shopify won't do what you need, the chances are it can. You just need the right team to unlock its potential. And there's a bit at the end anyway of this webinar where obviously I'm saying you can book a demo and stuff. And at that stage, if you want to speak to us about specific use cases that you've got, if you've got specific functionality in mind, definitely something that we'll be able to help you with. So now that I've shown you through the different aspects of the platforms, we'd be delighted to open the floor to questions. If you click the three shapes in the bottom right corner of your screen, there's a Q&A box, and you can enter any questions there. And I'll just leave you for a minute to do that. Okay, great. So by now you probably have a sense of what Shopify can do for your brand, but the best way is to see it. And I encourage that with everyone. Experience it for yourself. Have a look through the admin area. Have a look through a site. See how things interact with each other. If you want to book a demo with us, we can walk you through a real Shopify store, showing you exactly how it works behind the scenes. No sales pitch, just a look at the platform, and we'll even give you a free performance audit of your current site as well, so we can see where you might be losing sales, you might be sort of have areas of improvement from an SEO perspective, from a CRO perspective, all of that sort of stuff. More than happy to have a look at that. Spots are limited. Obviously, it's first come, first served, but if you want to email us at hello@imaginaire.co.uk, then we'd be more than happy to offer you a full demo of the platform. Brilliant. Thanks a lot.